It is Tuesday, October 28th here on the Dimers Sports Betting Podcast. Hello, welcome back to the show. It is Greg and Dave. We've got takeaways from week 8 of the NFL, some wins from the weekend to discuss, an early week 9 preview as always, our fantasy waiver wire, and our college football corner. We even have a new segment here, the NBA King of the Court. Will be run on Tuesdays this year, which means we get to do that as NBA season unfolds on the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast. It should be a fun show. Dave, my friend, how was your weekend? How are vibes today?
Vibes are good. Cowboys suck, but I made some money betting against them, as hopefully some of you guys did if you listen to this podcast. Troy Franklin cashed his max receiving yards in the first quarter, plus 1,000 and I think plus 1,400 for those. So it was just a great snipe. Unfortunately, it did come at the expense of a pretty sad Sunday afternoon for me as a fan, but we like to make money and it worked out.
Yeah, get rich or die trying, as
Yeah.
you once said. The Cowboys are dying trying, and you're getting rich in the process if you're fading your team. The over, it just continues to hit with Dallas games. Feels like you should just bet the end of the bench receiver for whoever Dallas is playing. Pat Bryant found the end zone in this game. As a college fan that loved him at Illinois, that was fun to see, but hang in there, my friend. It's okay. My team was on bye, so I'm feeling refreshed, and I'm ready to talk some sports betting this episode. With that said, let's get right into our Week 8 NFL recap.
The week that was.
Midway through the day on Sunday, I was thinking tight end day was just going to be a bust. And then a few of our big names started to find the end zone. It still wasn't as big as last year, but at least a few found the end zone. Were you paying attention to what I was seeing there too?
Yeah, I mean, I thought for a second we were going to hit the anytime on the first touchdown round robin on the parlay. Obviously, didn't get any of the first, but we got Kittle and I'm blanking already because I've put it behind me. But early on, and then no dice in the middle slate with Goddard. It's Kittle and Goddard. No dice in the middle slate. Ferguson, an absolute ghost in that game. They probably could have used a couple targets his way, and then we got Kraft at the end. Yeah, Tyler Warren, Colts score a billion points, and Tyler Warren doesn't get in the end zone. Disappointing. But it's just the Jonathan Taylor show over there. And speaking of Jonathan Taylor, he's probably wrapped up that Offensive Player of the Year race already, barring anything substantial happening. So do what you can with that. But he's like minus 250, so you're probably not betting on it.
No. Yeah, no odds there, but it's been impressive to watch exactly what he's done this year. I mentioned it last week. I'm into the Colts. Like, I just love watching that team. I think they're for real with how good that offense has been, and it's going to be fun to keep seeing it. A lot of blowouts this week as well. Just one singular one-score game in Week 8, and it was at one point it was a blowout, right? The Jets-Bengals became the game of the week. Good for Aaron Glenn. First win as the New York Jets coach. I don't know how much Jets fans were even celebrating it at this point because I think they're already out on this regime.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody wants to go winless. Like, you definitely are, even if you got the bag over your head, I think you breathe a little sigh of relief that you aren't going to be 0-17 for the first team ever. But yeah, how much you're actually going to take away from this, I don't know. I mean, they beat the only defense that might be worse than the Cowboys or is just as bad. They're certainly in their own tier, the Bengals and the Cowboys. So, I mean, good for the Jets, good for Justin Fields, a really timely win for him, honestly, with the Woody Johnson stuff. That's got to feel really good, and he kept it pretty professional in the post-game presser, so respect to him for sure.
100%. He's just a good person. Sometimes you can tell there's good people to root for in sports. There's bad people everywhere as well, but Fields is a guy you don't like seeing him fail, and for one day, Jets fans can at least get a happy beer after the game. Someone who's not getting a happy beer after the game, Cam Scatterbo. Gosh, brutal. After how much fun he's been in his rookie season. Now, look, you can't predict injuries, although I will say, like, this was kind of a fluke injury. Scatterbo also seems like a guy, like, you immediately were questioning how long the shelf life is. I don't think anybody thought it would be this short. And, I mean, God, we hope that's not a career-altering injury, but it looks like it might be. It's devastating.
It was gross. Feel bad for him. Feel bad for the Giants. Even as a Cowboys fan, I have some sympathy for you guys. I saw Dak get a pretty brutal injury a couple years ago. It's never fun. And no matter what, the guy's fun to watch. So it's always more fun when those guys are out there on the field. playing, betting on them, watching them,
The Giants franchise, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of a Giants fan. I know that's probably impossible for you to do as a Cowboys fan, but like, dude, to go through like the highs of Odell Beckham turned into a devastating injury turned trade, turned into you have Saquon Barkley into injuries and traded, immediate Super Bowl, into Malik Neighbors, into serious injury, into Cam Scatterbo, into serious injury. It's just like, it's not fair. At a certain point, even as like rival fans across the league, you look at that like, this is terrible. I feel awful for everyone involved in this, especially Cam, who's one of my favorite players to watch.
Yep. Yeah, tough takeaways there, but hopefully they bounce back. Hopefully they come back next year, or at least late in the year healthy, and they still have a nice young core.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's looking up for them.
You saw Jackson Dart if you watched his post-game press conference. He just seemed gutted. I talked about the connection, the bond those guys had, and it's be hard to be the starting quarterback looking around like, damn, everybody's dropping like flies. But we'll see where it goes from here. Let's move to some takeaways here. We both prepped a few individual takeaways coming off of week 8. You've got one for us. What do you got?
Yeah, the Steelers' well has officially run dry. Look, it looked like this was maybe going to work for a little bit, and it certainly was. But the Dimers model has been predicting this for a couple weeks, we think. We talked about it. We won't have our insights until Thursday, as our model will update sometime later today for futures. But we've talked about it here on the show. And over the past couple of weeks, the model has shown value in the Ravens actually winning this division, even though the Steelers have been favored. And I think it looks like this offense has exhausted its output, almost like they had a certain number of wins or a certain amount of success they could get, and they've used it up already early in the season. DK is very good. There's no questioning that. But, it's kind of hard to rely on 5 or 6 catches a game. Besides him, this team pretty much relies on broken plays, whether it's to DK or that Roman Wilson 50-yarder that I think resulted in a field goal on that drive. The week before, Pat Freiermuth 60-yard touchdown. They still lost the game after getting the lead after that. This team's got 4 tight ends on the active roster and not a single wide receiver who I think would be a wide receiver 2 on another club. Their running back committee, RB1-2 in air quotes, has 5 rushing touchdowns between them. The Ravens are minus 130 to win this division at 2-5. And probably getting Lamar Jackson back. Short week. But they get a Dolphins team that probably riding too high off of a win against the Kirk Cousins-led Falcons. And, I just think this is it. We saw it, and kind of fittingly dropping to the Packers in a frustrating game for Aaron Rodgers just kind of felt the taste was all over it,
Yeah. It felt like the team kind of knew where it was headed, and it wasn't the same vibe as short as like 3 weeks ago. So yeah, interesting to watch. You mentioned the Ravens just quickly. Good Lord, I could not have been more wrong about Chicago and Baltimore this week. That was like my favorite play of the year. In hindsight, definitely felt like a little bit of a sucker line, but hey, it tricked both me and the model on this one. Baltimore's got that win under their belt. At minus 130 seems a lot more realistic coming off of a Tyler Huntley-led win over Ben Johnson and the Bears. So we will monitor where it goes next. I have 2 takeaways to add. I want to start with the AFC West. 3-headed monster in this division. And anytime we've brought up the futures model with this, our model has held strong that it's the Chiefs that are the team to beat. The Chiefs now 5-3 on the year, tied with the Chargers for second in this division. 1 game back of Denver, who is 6-2. It'll be interesting to see how the model continues evolving. My guess with all 3 of these teams winning with style this week, I mean, these were some dominant performances from all 3 of these teams. My guess is the model is not going to move a ton. I don't think the sportsbook's odds have changed a ton. And the Chiefs are probably still a slightly greater than 50% probability to win this league. But as you get later in the season, man, Denver looks more and more for real right now. That really was a masterful offensive performance, and I thought they had some timely, big-time defensive plays that really frustrated the Dallas offense, which we know is loaded too at times more than other teams have. Meanwhile, the Chargers, just when you get the Chargers at their best, I don't know that there's a better team in football. Doesn't seem like they're the most consistent group, but I would not want to see them when they're playing a 10 out of 10 game. So if there's one division in football I'm most excited to watch how this plays out, it's the AFC West. And given how good all 3 of these teams are, I do think there could be some momentary value, depending on who you want to back here, to back a team that, is tied for second right now, but could move if you pick the right time to bet them this season. One more takeaway from me on the flip side, from a loaded division where everybody's rolling, there's some teams that I had suspicions might be dead. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. Like, at what point do you kind of say, hey, it's not our year? Could we luck into somebody who could really help us next year if we start to throw some games? It's too early to say teams are hanging it up throwing games, but there are 3 teams that I at least had circled as, okay, let's watch if they're still trying to contend this year. All 3 of them won this week and shocked me. You had Houston, Baltimore, and Miami, all with what I would term like a back against the wall type win. Now, Houston sitting here at 3-4. If it weren't for the Colts being like the second best team in football, I think I'd be fully bought in on Houston just being a team you might want to scoop up some value in to believe in. But they're 4 games back in the division. Oddly enough, like if they were 2-5, they'd be a team I would almost write off. This win last week to me probably keeps them in the mix for the wild card, but it's just a group I still don't know what to do with. Baltimore and Miami are interesting because, you just mentioned it. Our model still makes Baltimore the favorite in that division. If Lamar's back, they're certainly a different beast, but it's been such an ugly start. Miami's probably the most confusing win for me. They're not going to factor into the AFC East with how good Buffalo and New England are, but just surprising to see 3 teams that I had kind of asterisked as like, it might be it. Say it's not it. There's still time this season, and I'll be curious which of those 3 continue this surprising trend.
Yeah, I think I saw something. Tua woke up with like a swollen eye on Sunday morning or something, and then proceeded to have his best game of the season. So nothing really ever makes sense down there in Miami. It's upside down, but yeah, big win for them. Some Texans is kind of interesting. So before going into this week, we had them 12.8% to win the South, which is obviously pretty slim. Colts at 67.8 here. I think the Jaguars are probably in free fall, so I would definitely lean the Texans over that. But interestingly, they were plus 1,300, so it is a value. It's just very unlikely given that gap. The Colts would have to slide pretty badly. But the Texans do look like they're turning it around at least a little bit. Pretty good win with a depleted offense in that game versus the Niners. So might be worth a look to see what their odds are to make the playoffs, maybe stage of elimination in the playoffs. If you don't think they can go deep, maybe, they lose in the divisional round or the conference championship. Maybe sneak a little plus money edge there. But
yeah.
And then, AFC West was pretty much like you said. You can almost pick any of those top teams and you're getting them at a fair price according to our model, and probably not going to change too much with them all winning and mathematically pretty much staying the same.
Yep. Yeah. We'll continue to monitor, NFL futures. We will have an update for you on the second episode later this week that we record on Thursdays. Okay. We're not done looking back just yet. Rather than just takeaways from the week that was in NFL, let's take a look back at some successful bets that we placed last week.
Should have bet that.
College Corner is hot. 8-1 run over the last 3 weeks. It was a clean sweep last week. Ole Miss, Northwestern, and then the under in that Oregon-Wisconsin game, all cashing. Honestly, with relative ease, Northwestern had a late lead in that game. Wisconsin, Oregon was 0-0 midway through the second quarter, and Ole Miss won outright. So it's never been a better time than now to invest in some college football picks with Dimers, and we will have more College Corner for you in just a few minutes. What else did we hit last week, Dave?
I just got to say real quick, dude, it's been pretty much sweat-free for these 3 weeks. Like not everything comes super clean and easy, and when you're on a hot run and it's sweat-free, you just appreciate it and enjoy it. And right now, I hope everybody is appreciating the College Corner with Greg. We all pretty much led you guys to wins last week. My play of the week, no luck on the tight end parlay, but I did do a Tucker Kraft ladder. This cashed every single way you played it. You played touchdowns, he got 2 of them. You play the full game ladder, he got 143 yards. I played the first quarter, and that was it. And he cashed it from 15 up to 49, one short of the 50 max. But, I mean, it was sweet. It was a perfect matchup. We told you the Steelers are one of the worst defenses against tight ends, and Kraft just feasted. It was pretty great. That's back-to-back first quarter receiving yards. We've cashed in plays of the week with Gibbs the week before. I'm probably not going to go away from it this week, so I'll look for the best one. Expect a running back or a tight end or a secondary receiver versus the Cowboys on Monday night. But you already know I'll be back with another one.
Yeah, baby.
then-
Kudos to you. I was on Tucker, by the way. Thank you for that play. And got a career game for him on tight end day, too. Just perfect.
Yeah. And I'll just say, too, if you play these and your guy starts off slow, like I should have done last night with Travis Kelce. I played him in the first quarter. Catches like a 35-yard reception on their first possession in the second, I believe. But guy starts slow, you're going to get some pretty good regular lines. I mean, I'm sure Kelce to get 80 yards last night after a receptionless first quarter was really impressive plus money. And he put in almost 100. So also a good tight end matchup, Commanders. Anyway, the model led us to some wins last week as well. We debuted the look at our model insights. These are reports that you can get directly with your Dimers Pro subscription. If you have these sports selected as your preferred sports in your profile, you will automatically get these. Our hockey report went out this afternoon. I'm going to take a look at that and cook something up. It's Frozen Frenzy tonight, so definitely something good there. But yeah, these will show where the model is performing well. Last week we showed you it happened to be performing well on money lines. Panthers money line and Dolphins money line were both there. Dolphins at plus 360 cashed. I did say I don't know if anyone's betting the Dolphins money line, and then Kirk Cousins was the starter. So if you bet it, then you got some pretty good value. I'm sure it was not plus 360 when he was announced to be the starter. Also, the over in Browns Patriots cashed, and it's cut off here, but you can see it at the bottom of the grid. If you are watching, that our closing line totals have returned a positive ROI, and that happened precisely in that game last week. So Greg led you to wins. I led you to wins. The Dimers model led you to wins. It was a pretty all-around good day for us on the podcast and on the Dimers website last week.
Dave, that's why we do this. It's rewarding when it works the way we want it to. And yes, it was a fun week last week. Let's hope this week is just as good. Dimers Pro is what you need. You see the banner up top. If you're watching the video version of this, you can get 50% off of Dimers Pro with promo code podcast. Dimers Pro gives you player projections, gives you against the spread projections, gives you the exact scores of games that we project, probabilities for all of it. If you're looking for what teams will win on the money line, if you're looking for what props have value, we've got it all. Futures as well. Every time we reference futures, it's coming straight from the data you can get with Dimers Pro. Get 50% off, promo code podcast. Take advantage while you can. That's a great segue. Let's take a look into our top early week 9 against the spread picks.
The early edge.
A little bit of a backslide last week. We only caught 2 picks on the podcast, and both of them backfired on us. Looks like we're going to go for a little bit of revenge on these guys this week with the Dimer model, depending on how things play out over the week. But anyway, our first play this week is Commanders plus 3.5. This is our highest probability of the week early on. Commanders are in I don't know if I'd call it a free fall, but they have 2 back-to-back very disappointing losses. Pretty much blown out in both of them. Marcus Mariota at the helm in both of them. So, a little bit of a caveat. But Jaden Daniels is nursing both a knee and a hamstring injury, which can be nagging. And it's probably something you want to take caution with your franchise quarterback, not rush him back, especially if your season's looking a little hit. But for now, our model is projecting Jaden Daniels in this game in its predictions. So that's probably why we're seeing the strong 58.9% probability. Commanders are at home here against the Seahawks, Sunday Night Football. So prime time, maybe gets just a little bit of extra time to get set. Adam Schefter has said that he wouldn't be surprised if he's out. So this isn't one that I'm going to be jumping on right now. But if we get closer and this doesn't move much and Jaden Daniels is in, I'm definitely going to be looking at it. Certainly looking at the prop angles. Terry McLaurin left last night's game after just coming back this week, I believe, possibly re-aggravating the same quad injury, if I read the reports correctly. So a lot of caveats to take when looking at this one. Teams is definitely banged up, and the Seahawks are coming off a bye. So, they're really well rested. Still a substantial 59% probability from the model on the Seahawks to win this game. So while we have the Commanders hanging in this one, we're not running away with them to throw things too out of whack.
Yeah, it's a good shout on the Daniels injury situation too. I want to ask you this just after I don't know, like, does the backup situation at Washington inspire confidence after what you saw from Mariota against Kansas City?
Not particularly. He's a capable backup, but these are tough matchups. Kansas City's pretty solid defense, and they gifted them 2 picks, and they could not do anything with it. And the team was pretty much full strength. You had Terry McLaurin back. He didn't leave the game until late, I think maybe in the 4th quarter. Debo played. They had the full backfield. So, aside from Jaden Daniels, the team was healthy. The offense, if it could move the ball, I think you would have seen it last night, and we really did not see much of that. So, wouldn't be very. Yeah, it's not
weird game. Like I felt, I don't know. It was like they were one play away for the whole first half. You go into halftime tied. They averaged 5 yards per play. They just kept getting in like across the 50 and making a negative play. And to my eye, it was really protection based. Like, I think Mariota is a capable backup. There's some backups in the NFL I want no part of. Mariota historically is one, like, I think you can almost get value if the starter's out and he's your backup quarterback. But he was just under pressure the entire game. He was running for his life and failing to run away for his life. This is one of those ones. If Daniels is back, I love it at 3.5. If Daniels is not back, it probably depends on the number for me. Like, if this dips enough to getting Washington plus a touchdown at home, I think I'd probably play it with Mariota. But man, they're banged up everywhere. It's obviously not fun to bet through injuries.
Yeah, no, I mean, regardless who plays for the quarterbacks, I'm definitely going to look at prop angles after what Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice just did to this defense. JSN and AJ Barner could be a sneaky play right there in this game. So I'll wait and see on this one. High value. If you think the Commanders have it or you're confident Jaden Daniels is going to play, the model says this is a good bet to make right now. Just think with the injuries, you want to wait a little bit. So if you go on site and you see our top spread, take it with a grain of salt with the things that we're telling you about this game. Next one, like I said, going back to some guys maybe for a little revenge from last week, but the Bears are favored by 2 points against the Bengals on the road this week. 56.5% probability, 2.3% edge. Let us down last week, but definitely a bounce back. I think I'm buying that here. They got out to a really hot start versus the Ravens in that game and just kind of ran into a wall and couldn't score until the 4th quarter. The Ravens, we talked about it. They had to sell out pretty much everything to win this game, and they did to keep their season alive. They were probably as healthy as they've been on defense all season long, and outside of Lamar, really weren't missing any key notable players. The Bears defense for me, I think, is key in this one. They have the NFL's best turnover ratio, differential rather. They're going to get a Bengals team that, while they've only lost 2 games in the Joe Flacco era, he hasn't thrown a pick. So the advantage, I think, would be with the Bengals if Joe Flacco were 100% healthy. But he got banged up a little bit with a shoulder injury in that last game. He did come back into play. He did finish the game, but he said he was pretty sore. They're listing him as day-to-day. I think I'd be less concerned about a Josh Allen sore, banged-up shoulder than a Joe Flacco sore, banged-up shoulder. And if it is banged up enough that he's not playing, it might be Jake Browning in this game. I really don't know who it would be without Jake Browning. He is the second QB depth chart, so they probably have to pull someone off the practice squad or get a veteran or something. If not, and I don't think we're going to see that happen with just a couple days turnaround time. Well, Jake Browning has 6 touchdowns and 8 picks this year. So if it's him, I just don't see how the Bears aren't going to handle this. I know we kind of said that last week, but is a serious bounce back spot. We just saw this Bengals defense completely cough up a lead against the Jets. What was it? Breece Hall throwing touchdown to Mason Taylor to win the game. Got on a trick play. It's just kind of not a good setup for them. And the Bears are certainly looking more like a playoff team, and I would expect them to do so in this game. Look like a playoff team and bounce back in a pretty much must needed win. Not must win, but very important win.
Yeah. With respect to Tyler Huntley, he's a lot better than Jake Browning, right? Like I'm willing to fade Jake Browning at all costs if there's a possibility he's going to play. I'm disappointed in Chicago last week, but that's not how you bet. You can't bet emotionally. You can't bet like, this team let me down. It's not going to happen again. In fact, usually spots like that are some of the best spots to try and circle bounce back situations for good coaches and good teams. You mentioned Cincinnati getting got by a trick play. That opens my eyes anytime you're playing a Ben Johnson offense. This is the most creative play caller in the sport. He is almost assuredly dialing up something we haven't seen before to get a defense that is really wildly overwhelmed by bad offenses. I still think the Chicago offense can really move the football. I thought it was kind of a back against the wall statement game from a Baltimore defense that does have some talent. Cincinnati does not. So early look at this. I love this. It's probably not a surprise. I've been on this program loving betting Chicago all year, but it's usually been profitable until last week, and bounce back spot is good for me.
Yeah, and you saw what they did in their last bounce back win when they got blasted by the Lions and then played the Cowboys, a bad defense, and made fools of them. So I don't know. Is Luther Burden healthy? 100-yard Luther Burden game in this one? Who knows? But I would definitely buy the bounce back here. I'm on this one, even if it's not a high value play. 2% edge is good enough for me. Small spread to cover. Last one here, as you know, another team let us down, but we're going right to them. Cowboys by a almost full field goal versus Cardinals, 56.5% probability, 2.3% edge. I'm going to try and not let my emotions get the better of me here, but I would feel better if this one. Feel better if the Cowboys weren't coming off of such a bad win. If they at least cover and lost, maybe driving at the end or even drive to cover and then you don't get the onside kick or something, I'd feel a lot better, especially against a pretty solid defense. A little more on that in a bit, but one that is more importantly, I think, well rested. Cowboys haven't had their bye yet. They're probably hurting for it, I think, pretty badly. And the Cowboys have looked their best against the poorer teams, though. And while the Cardinals aren't bottom of the barrel, even though they only have 2 wins, I think I'd put them a tier above some of those teams in that range. They have looked better with Jacoby Brissett, but they haven't won since week 2. So, there's not a lot to buy in confidence-wise here for the Cardinals. You're betting, like if you're not taking the Cowboys here, you're just betting against their defense. You're not really, I think, selling the Cardinals as the main point of this game. Kyler Murray's listed as questionable, might play his first action in a few weeks, but Jonathan Gannon says it's still too early to tell if he could play. He's going to get the extra day. This is Monday Night Football, if I didn't mention that. But there's a lot more in flux here, I think even more so than that Commanders game. The backfield is like a complete mess. Mari DeMercado's questionable after he took 1 carry for 1 yard in week 7, and then I don't think was hurt, just like didn't get more looks. It was all Bam night after that, pretty much. They cut Michael Carter yesterday, but looks like a roster maneuver. I saw some reports they're going to plan to sign him again. And so they pulled some guys off of IR. They're doing a whole bunch. This team's really in flux right now, and that just makes me want to bet on the healthier team that, if nothing, is consistent and predictable. The Cowboys have been pretty consistent, as we said, giving up the over, scoring points, letting points be scored against them. They're predictable. They will struggle on defense, but they're going to funnel the ball through George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, who have made nightmares for every defense they've played. They are either busting a huge play or drawing a defensive pass interference penalty. And that's just it, pretty much it for me. One other thing, the Cardinals defense, that's what I was going to say, was pretty good this year. Pretty stout, holding teams to, I think, only about 4 rushing touchdowns through the first few games. But they didn't really play anybody. They were playing the Saints and the Panthers, who are better now, but this was week 2. They played the Titans. They finally played the Packers and Colts and gave up the most points they gave up. Lost them both with their best-looking offensive team with Brissett. So,
yeah,
there's the pitch.
Super fraudulent defensive numbers for Arizona.
Yes.
I think I do not buy that. That's like a great defense at all. Dallas is arguably the best offense in the sport, at bare minimum top 3 or 4 in this league. And yeah, I think this is a great spot bet too, right? You're catching a total bounce back game, that a number that I think is really deflated from, if Dallas plays Denver closer and or wins that game, they're definitely over a field goal favorites against Arizona in a primetime game. I tend to think that's when we get Dak at his best. He's put up some big numbers in moments like that. So yeah, this is a circle. It's a super favorable number. I think it's a great spot. I think it's the right side. I felt that way long before the model agreed. I will say this, if you don't want to be totally 100% invested on the Dallas side of this, you can do what I'm going to do. I'm going to take Dallas to cover 2.5, and I'm definitely going to be betting the role player Arizona receivers as you lay out all
Greg
of the
Dortch.
reasons. Yeah, like Zay Jones and Greg Dortch, guys that have found the end zone once this year or less, that are probably going to have some pretty crazy touchdown values.
Yeah.
As you lay out how horrible this Arizona backfield is with moving parts and guys not to trust. If it's Brissett, they've moved the ball in the air pretty well with Jacoby Brissett. And if it's Kyler in a primetime game, healthy again, I like that too. I think we'll see points. Dallas overs have been our moneymaker all year, but I love Cowboys minus 2.5, and I love some wide receiver 3s and 4s for Arizona to find the end zone.
Yeah, they still got Michael Wilson over there.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the guys. Yeah.
Oh,
Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, 25 plus first quarter yards. Boom, right there. Yeah, we'll see what it looks like. There might be too many options in this one, but
yeah, we'll just have to sort through it. Maybe we can do that on Thursday and lock something in. All right, there you have it. That is our early look at week 9. As always, 2 episodes a week of this show. On the first, we give you the early glance at it, and then we come back later this week, finalize some cards, give you some personal plays and more. Stay tuned for the second episode for all of our bets for this week. But for now, make sure you get this access yourself. Dimers Pro is where you can access all of this in real time whenever you want. If you want to see every single NFL probability this week for week 9 and every week of the season, you can do it with Dimers Pro. Promo code podcast, you get 50% off. It's time for my personal favorite segment of this show on Tuesdays. It is Dave's Fantasy Waiver Wire.
The Fantasy Waiver Wire.
Guy let me down last week, Dave. I need a different pickup, please.
yeah, Munning guy let everybody down. I'm sure he'll have a good game this week when nobody wants to start him. That's how it goes. But last week's grabs, besides Munungai, were pretty on point. Gadsden had a big game on Thursday Night Football, touchdown, 77 yards. Troy Franklin, 2 touchdowns. Keishawn Booty, touchdown. Spoiler alert, 2 of those guys are back on this because not enough people picked them up and they're still out there. So we are going to talk about them. And no quarterbacks this week. Hopefully you don't need one. No real major quarterback injuries. I might even have a few guys coming back. And Hurts and Baker are the 2 most notable quarterbacks on bye, so you should probably be able to fill in. And one more thing, if you don't play fantasy, this is still a good section for you because, as mentioned, some of these guys found the end zone. They have pretty much every week we've done this, and we're telling you to pick them up because they're going to have good or are in situations where they could have a good performance. So you can bet on them, you can play fantasy on them, whatever, but we're looking at these guys because the model spies something and we spy a possible opportunity. So if you're not a fantasy head, this is still a valuable section to you. We're going to start off as usual with my number 1 overall ad and then go by a couple positions. And fortunately, injuries are usually the biggest void opener for a quality fantasy waiver wire pickup. And that's what we're looking at here as Cam Scadaboo suffered his season-ending ankle injury in week 8. Tyrone Tracy immediately reclaimed the backfield, outcarried Devin Singletary 10-2, outcaught him 2-1 receptions. His earlier struggles, which is pretty much what seeded the backfield to Cam Scadaboo in the first place, came with Russell Wilson playing quarterback and without Andrew Thomas. He's got a much better quarterback under center now. The offensive line is healthier, sets up a pretty strong bounce back opportunity here. And he should be locked in for a heavy workload. As mentioned, that Devin Singletary split did not do anything for him. It was all Tracy. So yeah, he should be the ad of the week at any position, projecting him for 13 PPR points, 50 rushing yards, and a pretty substantial 40% touchdown probability. Next, yeah, pretty solid for Tracy. I mean, if you have him, you're rear ready to go. If not, like, he should absolutely be an ad. There's going to be no competition here in this backfield unless they do something through the waiver wire or whatever, just like you will this week. Next up, another running back who he was featured here last week, actually. So actually not less turnover than I would imagine last week, but they were on bye, so he kind of went overlooked. Bam Knight is still only 20% rostered. Before the break, he handled 58% of the carries, was seeing almost half the snaps, logged 14 carries, 4 targets, caught 3 of those in that last game. He'll face the Cowboys this week. Only the Titans and the Bengals have given up more points to running backs. We've got him for 10.6 PPR points, 48.7 rushing yards, and a 41.8% touchdown probability. All right, that's it for running backs. Couple wide receivers for you here. As mentioned, Troy Franklin, he would be the wide receiver ad of the week for me. 38% rostered. Big ceiling, was a low floor, but I think that's going to raise a little bit after this past game. He was pretty much locked in as the number 2 target. 8 receptions, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, 30% or so of the targets in that entire game. Texas defense is not a good test that he's got, but he's clearly the number 2 here. He might even push Cortland Sutton for like top wide receiver targets, depending on game script in some of these, and should absolutely be rostered. If you don't need to start him this week, I might not against the Texans defense, but you absolutely should be looking to do so moving forward, rather. 36.5 receiving yards this week, 29.8% touchdown probability, but 8.9 PPR points is his highest projection that we've had for him so far. Another wide receiver this week, as I mentioned, he was here last week, Kayshon Boutte of the Patriots. 40% rostered, so on the higher end here. He's had some up and down kind of inconsistent weeks, but his spike stuff seems to be happening a little bit more frequently. I saw, I don't have a number of targets here. I thought I did, but he saw a substantial number of targets last week, put in 3 receptions, 75 yards and a touchdown though. 5 touchdowns this season, 4 in his past 3 games. So he's as hot as can be right now. Consider that could be some regression in play, but he's getting a lot of red zone looks. Drake May is peppering him with the big targets. Stephon Diggs doesn't have like any touchdown equity in this offense. He just caught his first touchdown of the season this past week. Drake May is just getting better and better, it seems. I mean, Boutte had this good game and Drake May got sacked 6 times. So you certainly see a path to upside with him here. It's projected for 8.6 points this week, PPR, 30.8% touchdown probability, and 37.4 receiving yards. So nothing insane, but certainly a guy that you want to be having on your roster. And at 40% rostered, it means he's out there. And finally, my tight end ad of the week would be Harold Fannin Jr. of the Browns. He's 45% rostered, so may not be out there in some deeper 12, 14 team leagues. But he's been a pretty reliable target for Dylan Gabriel. 6 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown last week with Njoku coming back, which I think is the most notable part of this. Finished as top 10 tight end of the week in half of his games this year. He's one of the better receivers on the Browns, leading them in several categories without any real major receiver threats or volume going on over there. Browns are on bye this week, but so, you know, if you absolutely don't need a tight end, maybe you don't need to stash him over the week. But if you do, you know, if you have a Dallas Goedert or a Cade Otton, Mason Taylor, someone like that, and you're in need, he would be the guy that I would go for. And then just a few other guys. One of these actually would have been one of these highlights, but the most notable development of this came shortly before the show. But Ollie Gordon, he saw a good amount of looks. I think 10 carries, season high this past week. Kareem Hunt, that's who I was just about to mention. Must add, if he's out there, he was dropped in a lot of leagues. He's actually, I think, only like 35% rostered in Yahoo now. But Isaiah Pacheco just saw had an MCL sprain, I believe, before this. If I'm remembering the injury correctly, please don't hold me to it if I was wrong. I saw it just before this. But he's probably going to miss some time. And yeah, I mean, Kareem Hunt is just getting all the touchdowns in that backfield anyway, even though it's just kind of a sloggy mess. So a couple extra bonus guys for you there. But most importantly, Tyrone Tracy is top priority out of the week. RB1, 2, borderline rest of the way.
Get ready for a Tyrone Tracy bidding war, folks. Dave, I'm going to put my own little seasoning on the waiver wire here, and I want to ask you what you think of this. With Kareem Hunt being a target in that gruesome Pacheco industry, any Brashard Smith love? Would you think the third Kansas City back is worth a look too?
Yeah, I definitely would. I think he kind of was a dud last night, which is, probably makes him free to pick up. Some people are probably going to drop him this week. We don't have much going for him in this 5.0 PPR points. 18.4 touchdown probability. I bet Isaiah Pacheco's not ruled out of this yet. He's not, so that'll likely go up. He does get targets, kind of that Jerick McKinnon role that he used to have there for a few seasons.
Yeah.
So he's definitely worth a speculative add. I wouldn't be jumping to start him, but if you're hurting, you could certainly do worse. It doesn't take a lot to be effective in a Patrick Mahomes offense.
Yeah, 100%. Okay. All right. Thank you as always, Dave. I appreciate all the tips as I try to save my free-falling fantasy football team before it's too late. Okay, from your segment of the week to my segment of the week, let's do our college football picks next.
College Corner.
I haven't felt this hot since I started dating the popular girl my junior year of high school. It's College Corner week 10. We had a sweep last week, 8-1 over the last 3 weeks. And once again, we have 3 picks for you here. If you are trying to remember what this is basically just me looking at the Dimers models best bets for college football every single week, tracking it with my own personal card that I've looked at before looking at the Dimers model, finding what ones overlap, and then seeing what happens. And so far, what has happened, it's been really good results. 3 of them this week. We start in the Big Ten, my favorite conference, where the model loves Nebraska plus 6.5. Nebraska in Lincoln, night game, prime time, 7:30 p.m. against USC. Both these teams have prolific offenses. Dylan Raiola is one of the best arm talents in the sport. USC is a team that wants to score with anybody. I think both these teams, game script-wise, have kind of become comfortable playing shootouts and exchanging blow for blow. Our model also is looking at the over for this game. I thought about leaning with the over. That's just a lean for me. An official play, though, is Nebraska plus 6.5. And look, Nebraska has played a million one-score games, it seems like. Outside of the dud against Minnesota, they've almost always had a game that comes down to the final possession one way or the other. They have struggled against high major opponents to cover the spread. In fact, this year, Nebraska has not covered the spread, I don't believe, other than once against a high major opponent. It's just not gone their way. We're due for some regression there. I don't think they're going to go 1-11 against the spread. USC, I think, is the right time to strike here because throughout the last 2 years here, Lincoln Riley, when he has to go to traditional Big Ten programs, a 3-hour flight across the country, it's been night and day. He almost always covers at home. He almost always fails to cover on the road. I was shocked when I saw this number, a night game where Lincoln is going to be jumping for Nebraska. I think this is a shootout. I think it comes down to the final couple of plays, and I'll take 6.5 points with a team that I think can score just as much as USC can. For our next 2 plays this week, we're going to turn to the ACC, and our next play up is Syracuse minus 2.5. Syracuse this week is taking on North Carolina, Bill Belichick's own. We get to fade the greatest coach in NFL history, but man, it's been, if you haven't been paying attention, it's been a disaster of a season for North Carolina. This team looked dead as little as 2 weeks ago. They appear to be playing slightly competitive football now, but I think it's a little bit misleading. Last week, they were against Virginia, who's the 16th ranked team in the country. They lose by only 1 point. They've now covered the spread in back-to-back weeks after a close game at Cal as well. This is still the same football team that has gotten blitzed against some decent teams in Clemson and TCU and UCF earlier this year. Now they're on the road against a Syracuse team that, don't get me wrong, looks dead. But this is also a Syracuse team that, when they've sniffed out some struggling football teams, has thrown a good punch. You think back to earlier this year when they kind of shocked Clemson, and Clemson was really reeling in a way nobody knew about, a 2-score win. This is a Syracuse team that hung 66 on a horrible defense in Colgate in the non-conference. You get Syracuse at home, key football number, just needs to win by a field goal. Basically, any major conference football team against Bill Belichick's North Carolina program to win by 3 at home. I think it's one of the only times we're ever going to get a line like that. And I think it's a good time to sniff a bounce back performance from Syracuse here. Last pick of the week here, it is Wake Forest plus 8.5. Now, Wake Forest has one of my favorite coaches in all of college football. Jake Dickert is a guy used to be at Washington State and has jumped up to the ACC. And he is turning things around without people really realizing it. This year, Wake Forest is sitting at 5-2. They can clinch bowl eligibility with a win in this game. They've won 3 straight. They've looked the part. They beat SMU last week in just a grimy football game. Only 25 points scored in that game. But you think even to this team's losses, they haven't lost by more than 10 points this year. Had a really good loss by 1 point to Georgia Tech, who looks like the team to beat, 8-0 in the ACC now. I would argue Wake Forest played them tougher than anybody. Florida State's not playing anybody tougher than anybody right now. This Florida State team has lost 4 consecutive games. Since they upset Alabama at the beginning of the season, they've now lost to Virginia and given up 46 points in the process, lost to Miami, lost to Pitt, lost to a Stanford team that really has been in disarray all season long. Catching more than a touchdown with Wake Forest. They've won 3 straight against a Florida State team that I really think has kind of quit on the season. It's probably my favorite number of the week. Lock it in for the third play of our 3, Nebraska plus 6.5, Syracuse minus 2.5, and Wake Forest plus 8.5 are our 3 plays this week. And by the way, the Dimers model agrees with me. The highest probability outcome here of these 3 is that Wake Forest plus 8.5. If I had to make one play the play of the week, it would be the Demon Deacons.
Awesome, Greg. I love it. I've been secretly hoping all season we would get at least one game with a Bill Belichick offense in it for you to talk about. And I like it. And it's on Halloween. Come on, that can't go right for Bill Belichick, right? I mean, I feel like the costumes by the Syracuse fans are going to be pretty provocative in the sense of trying to get a rise out of him. And we know he's stone cold and won't be fazed by that. But I just don't see things going well for Bill Belichick in his current situation on Halloween. All Hallows Eve seems like a nightmare. Maybe
for Halloween, Bill Belichick could go as a coach who still gives a shit. That'd be a nice costume for him because that's not what he's been. I'm very excited about that. That is fun too. You get the Friday night game, one on Friday, 2 on Saturday for us this week. So, hey, do me a favor, please, if you're listening to this, if you've made some money betting College Corner with us, make sure you support the show. Throw us a like, subscribe to the Dimer Sports Betting Podcast that you get every single episode of this. 2 episodes a week. We do College Corner every week on Tuesday. Every subscription, every like, every comment helps us as we continue to grow this show and try and make you some money. Let's turn to something new here. NBA season is here, and NBA King of the Court is now on Tuesdays, which is very convenient for this program. Dave, explain exactly what this is and how we're going to attack it.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely up there with some of the best promos in sports betting. These jackpot style promos, they seem to have become more popular over the past year or so. And I think they're the best, really some of the best ones out there because you're placing a bet. They're almost always a really minimum $5 upfront wager, which is what it is for DraftKings King of the Court. And you, 1, don't even need to win the bet to win the jackpot, which is ideal. So you can take a nice long shot with upside. You kind of almost have like it's not quite a no sweat, but you have this secondary option for a win. And you have so many options to choose from. You can look at matchups, you can look at upside, you can look at injury situations, opportunities, take long shots. Some of these bonus bets last year ranged from, I think, about $30 at the lowest for Giannis one night. And then I think it was 6,000 something when it was Jamal Murray one night. Many of them were in the $200 to $1,000 range. So it's not always a big name. There's somebody lurking out there. It's the NBA. It's, any given night, it can be anybody who goes off. Tuesdays should be a smaller slate than on Wednesdays last year. So it should be maybe a little easier to narrow down the top guys. But anyway, yeah, you bet $5 on a guy. Any player prop market like points, threes, assists, rebounds, etc., using your king of the court token on that bet. If that player leads all players that night in total PRA, points, rebounds, and assists, you and everyone who picked them will split a $1 million bonus bet pool, which you can then use on any wagers you desire. So a lot of upside for a pretty low risk swing as far as promos go. And since it's on Tuesdays, we'll be able to take a few looks. Each week we'll look at our top overall projections for these guys as the most obvious targets that are probably going to be the most obvious plays. And then one or two long shots we'll come up with for maybe a little upside to try and net a bigger bonus bet return. And we'll leave that up to you guys for, who you want to bet. We'll just try and guide you with a few targets and, leave the rest to you. So I'll pull up our projections here from the NBA Hub so we can just take a look. And we'll use those to kind of look at the top three and then go from there. Unsurprisingly, top guys are Giannis, SGA, followed shortly by LaMelo Ball. Giannis is at 50.7 PRA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 42.3 and LaMelo Ball 40.4. All three of these guys won at least once last year. Like I said, I think $29 for the lowest Giannis one. He won twice. I think it was around $60-something the second time. It was $85 for SGA and $1,027 bonus bet for LaMelo. So certainly the upside, I think you would say, for bonus bets of these top three is LaMelo. Of these three, he would certainly be the least popular, I would think. Regarding his matchup, he plays the Heat, who have a top 10 scoring defense, but have allowed the 10th most rebounds per game. That's independent of position. But Melo did just tally 10 and 13 boards in back-to-back games, 64 PRA in his last game. So, he's hot for a first few games of the season and has been grabbing more rebounds, I think, than he usually does in what could be a potentially good rebounding matchup. A couple long shot guys then that I would look at. Tyrese Maxey here, I wouldn't call him maybe a long shot. He's fourth here, but certainly outside the range of these top three, and he's under 40 PRA at 38.4. But he's the top projected scorer in this game, so that gives you the upside. You want the scoring upside too. Rebounds and assists are integral to cashing this with somebody, but you need the scoring upside as that's where the bulk of the volume is always going to come from. But he's dropped 40 twice this season, 55 PRA last game. That was last night, so he's on a back-to-back. But the Wizards allow the fourth most points per game and are the Wizards, so good spot for him. We have VJ Edgecombe not too far down here, but fewer points. So, more of a hill to climb, I guess, although we've already seen his incredible upside on night one of this season. And then one other guy I think worth a look for a long shot is James Harden down here. He's our 12th PRA total, 32.5. Warriors allow the second most assists so far. We know that's kind of Harden's bread and butter, at least as far as stat stuffing. Warriors have also allowed over 130 points in 2 games or on a back-to-back. Is it going to be enough to top guys like Giannis and SGA? I don't know. Maybe not, but you could do worse than a long shot here. That is one thing to consider. You might have a guy in the perfect spot, but he has to, climb the mountain that is Giannis or SGA to truly put in the top PRA total. But that's what you're doing here. You're taking a long shot. I don't know how many Tuesdays they'll do this season. I think we had about 20 King of the Court runs last year, so almost every week. And, we should get quite a few this year, quite a few opportunities to go after it. You'll probably find something that looks a bit like this graphic week to week on our socials that features a couple of our top projected guys, a couple long shot plays for you to look at. But we're going to try and guide you to some bonus bet victories week to week here.
Boom. I love it. Yeah, it's a good plug too. Make sure you follow us on social. Dimers.com on Twitter so you can get everything that we're tweeting out. We can share a lot of good stuff, honestly. Like when I used to work full-time at Dimers, it was like NFL Sundays were like must follows. You wake up in the morning and I'd have like 7 different pieces of content ready for how we were going to bet the day. And you'd come back at the end and usually find some winners. So reminder, this is a 7 days a week type thing here at Dimers. We are always looking for whatever the appropriate way to attack the sports slate is. King of the Court is one of the most fun promos to do it. So show us some love on socials. Make sure you don't miss anything that we push out. Appreciate you, Dave. Those are good shouts. I think Tyrese Maxey is my personal play tonight.
That's what I'm going to do, I think.
I'm liking Maxey. Okay. 10 to 10K. If you're a bettor, you've heard this before. There's quite a few people in the sports betting community that have taken on the $10 to 10K challenge. And it's time for us to take our own run at this. So we're starting one up in the Dimers Pro Discord tonight, it sounds like. Dave, tell us more.
Yep. We'll take a few shots at this throughout the season. I mean, maybe unless we just cash it right off the rip, in which case we'll probably just call it one and done and retire on it. But yeah, we're going to do it a few times. We ran a poll over the weekend for our users to vote on the sport. They picked NBA over NFL. So that's what we're going to start with. If you are a Dimers Pro, it'll be right in the Discord. If you're not, this is a little call out to you that if you're in that Discord, you'll have this every time we do it, plus all the other insights that you get in there. There's a really good guide on the homepage about increasing your still very long shot chances of completing this challenge, but a couple little tweaks you can do to the traditional formula to increase mathematically your odds of completing this. And yeah, we'll try to figure out a way to do it on the show as well over the course of the season. But, you know, we're only a couple days a week here, so we'll have to find a way to do it outside the regular episodes. Maybe that'll be through a little video we post on YouTube in the morning or before game time, but you'll want to make sure you subscribe to the channel to get that, because it will drop outside of our regular schedules and you'll want to know when that drops right away.
Yeah, it's a fun way, fun path to follow. In fact, not to call them out, but our colleague Calling Our Shot had one that came down to the final leg this past week, and we've collaborated with Calling Our Shot before. Man, gut-wrenching when he comes down to the final leg and you lose it. But I've seen him hit before. It's quite a feat when it happens, and hopefully it's our turn very soon. That'll be fun to follow along. Join the Discord so that you can see it all. All right, we are about to wrap the show, but first we have a champ of the week.
The Pro Champ of the Week.
Some NHL goal scorer props were the hit this week for our Discord user, JPH8300. $5 into over $400 with 4 NHL goal scorer props. Dave, you got the ticket up right now. How do you do this?
Pretty simple. I asked him straight up. This dude's really cool. We collabed on some goal scorer parlays last year. We'll probably cook up a few. I heard my Discord going off. He's probably got a few DMs for me. I got to check out after I hop off of this. But yeah, he said he just it was only a 2-game slate, so it was easy to isolate, but they look for a 35% probability or higher when they put these together. All 4 of these guys are at 37% or more. Took 2 in each of the 2 games, or 1 from each team in each of the 2 games. Each of them had odds of plus 185 or better, which would be fair at 35%. So each one had at least a little bit of an edge. And there you go. Just the rest was magic. And this is exactly what you can do with these tools. We showed you one just last week. Someone did a round robin. Our guy, Zoglitch, 250 into over 700 using the long shot parlays on a very low stake round robin. So that's 2 big NHL parlays in a week that we've showcased on here, all from the Dimers Pro tools, all that you have complete access to if you have any tier of a Dimers Pro subscription.
Boom. There you have it. Congratulations, JPH. That is quite a win. Impressive stuff. All right. What else is on Dimers this week, Dave?
What's on Dimers this week?
It's Frozen Frenzy tonight, the biggest NHL slate of the year, 16 games, pretty much every 15 minutes from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. They are dropping the puck on a new game. That means we have more bets, props, projections, and everything than ever probably will have on any single game night this season. So if you are listening to this before this puck drops at 6 p.m., get on there. And if you're listening to it after, get on there because it's going all night. They don't drop the final puck till 11 p.m. tonight, so plenty of time. all week NFL coverage. We'll have our parlays, we'll have our looks, our enhanced editorial content with extra deeper dives into some of the tools and features around dimers.com. World Series predictions. It's game 4 tonight. Insane game last night. Hopefully we are in for just another treat all the way through to the end, which for the Blue Jays could be coming sooner than later. No golf this week, back next week with that. And of course, it's college football pretty much every single day until Thanksgiving. So, there's just loaded on dimers for you this week. No matter your sport, no matter your poison, we got you. No more full NFL equinoxes, but with college football, we got at least a few more. So 3 or 4 of those left.
My 4-screen setup in the basement's getting great use as the sports equinox hits in October. It's lovely. Brutal beat for anyone who had under 17.5 innings in game 3 of the World Series. That was just heartbreaking, but
it was the lock.
Yeah, it's like lock of the week. Just killer stuff there. All right, so many fun things to bet right now. Hopefully you're enjoying this show and we can help lead you to some winnings. Thank you, Dave. Make sure you get Dimers Pro, promo code podcast, 50% off. We will be back on Thursday to finalize our cards for the weekends and talk some Halloween bets. We'll see you then.